We're gonna get into it. Al Haymon. Al Haymon, Al Haymon, Al Haymon, Al Haymon. I like to think Al Haymon. I like to think Al Haymon, Al Haymon, Al Haymon, Al Haymon. I was probably one of the very few people who knew a lot about Al Haymon before anyone even knew Al Haymon. Before he was even into boxing. Al Haymon is from Cleveland. And there was a time that he didn't even want you to know that. He does not do interviews. He does not take photos. And there was plenty of times where he would have photos taken of him off the internet before he just said, well, hell, nothing I can do about it now. But they won't have an interview with me. And I would never, ever commit to taking a photo. Because that's not what Al Haymon does. Here's where it's going to get a little interesting. Al Haymon has been synonymous What's up, Tony? With the sport of boxing, he basically runs it. Al Haymon is a businessman, not a boxing man. His brother was a fighter. His brother was beaten so badly that he wanted to fix the sport of boxing because once his brother retired, he really had nothing to fall back on. This did not sit well with Al Haymon. And he promised one day it's boxing. He's a promoter, a marketer, businessman, Harvard graduate, graduated from Harvard University. Can't be a dummy and go to Harvard. They don't. What's good? That this problem that is happening on one end should not be happening on another front. Al Haymon, who put together tours, MC Hammer, when MC Hammer was at the biggest stage in his career, when the Jacksons and Michael Jackson was at the biggest stage of their career, he put those tours together. He had all the access to all the marketing pitches, everything from Pepsi, Budweiser, anything you needed, Al Haymon had. He was a millionaire in the 80s, working alongside Don King, doing business. Al had no plans of coming into the sport of boxing. Only when he came into boxing is when Al Haymon, who put together concerts for Biggie, Puffy, Frankie Beverly and Maze, all the soul concerts, Al would pay the money for the concerts. Now, here's the thing. Once he got into boxing, Vernon Forrest was his first fighter. And his thing was to get Vernon Forrest to a championship, to be his moniker, to lead the way. And the first man to ever defeat Shane Mosley was predicted by myself was going to be Vernon Forrest. And I told people, I said, Vernon Forrest is going to beat Shane Mosley. And after Shane Mosley got rocked by that right hand and was knocked down and was basically out on his feet and survived, Vernon Forrest won a boring rematch, but his contract came and Shane Mosley's stock dropped. Al Haymon had his introduction to the game. He had a seat at the table. Then they gave Vernon one of the biggest contracts HBO could do. They had their new star. And out of nowhere, boom, here comes Ricardo Mayorga, knocks out Vernon Forrest. And then in a rematch, Vernon Forrest and Mayorga fight to a decision where it looked like Vernon won, but he got screwed. And they gave the fight to Mayorga as he became the news star because he drank beer, smoked cigarettes. He was a personality that they could sell. So Al Haymon's plan took a back seat. Al knew at that time he was not in position. The networks had too much of a stranglehold on boxing, and it was nothing for him to do to get his plan across. He needed a fighter to do this. Vernon had to have surgeries and, different repair work. Floyd fell out with his manager, James Prince, who's now managing somebody who he went up against and was an enemy of his, which was Floyd Diego Corrales. And he's like, you finna manage both of us? Oh, hell no. Then, he felt a certain way about that and didn't really want to work with Jay Prince anymore. So Floyd was basically independent and on his own after leaving Jay Prince. And it took some convincing in a meeting with Al. Al helped him get his money. Floyd then was conned by a con artist. Who finessed him out of his money. And when he was finessed out of his money, these problems ensued. They came rearing their ugly heads, and it became a massive problem. No. Al Haymon decided it was going to be in his best interest to have and keep Floyd Mayweather. The sport of boxing has lost its appeal as Oscar De La Hoya's aged. They tried to make Oscar De La Hoya the megastar, and all of their megastars were falling apart, but Floyd Mayweather had the skill, like he could sell it. But he had a promoter that really, Bob Arum didn't really know how to market African American fighters. This new age of African American fighters, he just didn't have, it was a large disconnect. And Fred Steinberg ain't going to be able to tell you how to market to African Americans. They just don't understand it. So, naturally, putting all these things into motion, Al knew he had to take losses in order to make success. Carlos Baldomir, perfect fight for Floyd Mayweather. That's going to give him the title, and he'll be the lineal champion because he beat the guy who beat the man. But they're going to take a loss on pay-per-view. That pay-per-view is not going to earn a lot of money. But people are getting introduced to Floyd. Plus, he'll be the lineal champion at welterweight, so it'll mean something if they make the Floyd Mayweather De La Hoya fight. Had to have that piece in there. The fight was supposed to be against Zab Judah, but Zab Judah wasn't successful. So because Zab Judah wasn't successful, here we are. We're at the crossroads. What's up, HD? Don't forget to follow HD channel. Welcome to HD with the Two Eyes TV. Now, Al Haymon at this time knew he was going to take a loss at that, like the Shambe Mitchell fight, and all these other things that they've tried to do with Jordan Brand, and get these people to buy into basically sponsoring fighters and giving fighters sponsorship money. The boxing game was on a standstill, and these companies didn't want to hand the baton over. It's HBO kept fighting with Al Haymon, and Al had to have some part of control as he's signing more fighters based on the fact that he got Floyd Mayweather and Floyd's making money. He's able to use that to bridge himself into other deals. Now, other people don't know the other side of Al Haymon, which was the commercial real estate Al. I know because my partnership with Smith & Brown, we are in the commercial real estate business at this time. So when we're bidding to try to get a bid to see if we're gonna, go with this project and help out and find the financing and the money for it, they were a part of a hedge fund that already had about maybe 400, 500 million in there so they could fund projects. And Al was basically using Floyd Mayweather's popularity by bringing him to a celebrity event or anything of this nature, or bringing him to that country. And just from Floyd, and they're just like, oh, we got Floyd Mayweather here. Their mind is like in awe. He's really over there negotiating and closing a commercial real estate investment property that's probably going to be a $500-600 million build or project. This is how Floyd Mayweather ends up with all his names on these skyscrapers and get a portion of the money from these skyscrapers, because it's going to make money over the years it's built. You make a lot of money in the construction of the project. So, and this is worldwide. Now, as this goes on, Al can afford to take on these fighters and keep taking on fighters and keep taking them on. So now the list is growing, and it's like getting out of control, because there's no sense for this to be going on. And it's like, wow, why is this like dragging out so much? It's not making any sense. Now, Al wanted to take boxing to the next level and run the show. But you have so many people in interference. Al is not a promoter. He's a manager. But he does the job a promoter is supposed to do. That's why Sam is, Al's he's gonna do all the talking. Sam gonna be out there. Yeah, man, cause we do, man, cause that's Sam. Everybody thinks he's Al Haymon, and he just accepts it. But we all know what it is. So as Sam goes around and does what he does in the sporting world, Sam goes ahead and makes a mistake. And you might say, well, what is that mistake? Sam started to tell a little bit too much of the plan in one of the interviews, and you know, Al didn't like that too much. So Al was like, okay, Sam's getting too big. His boys, Brandon and Marcus, is out there. They doing their thing and they building their company up, and they're, loving the cameras a little bit too much. So one of the guys that he dealt with while dealing with Floyd, who's learning from him, is Leonard Ellaby. Leonard Ellaby is a physical, and like, he's the physical trainer. Like, he's the, your personal fitness guy. That's Leonard Ellaby. That was his job, to train you. This guy used to sleep on Jeff Mayweather's couch, wear jogging suits every day. And he worked himself up to be a manager in the face, and actually became really close to Al Haymon. So Al could use Leonard. Now, Oscar De La Hoya and Golden Boy Promotions was what they had a partnership. But Oscar kept screwing up the company because he keeps doing coke and banging Russian strippers and dressing up like a woman. He's endangering this business. So Floyd can't be fighting under Golden Boy Promotions anymore. So his company, Mayweather Promotions, is going to have to stand on its own. So to get that backing and stand on its own and be its own promotional company, where they didn't even have a license, they had to go and apply for one. Now this puts them at exposure to, expose the finances and where the money's coming from. But Al and the works have been trying to bring boxing back to television instead of cable. So naturally, this is now coming to conflict with Al Haymon having a lot of power in boxing because everybody's losing. So they want to protect their fighters, Miguel Cotto's, the Manny Pacquiao's, because they are really trying to go against Al Haymon, but he had the king, Floyd Mayweather. So you need Floyd. So HBO was dealing with him because they needed him. So when he made them an offer they couldn't refuse, HBO refused. And he wanted to renegotiate and, keep the negotiations going. But the negotiation really was with Showtime. Showtime was going to allow them a total amount of fights per year. And then they were allowed to promote up their upcoming fighters, which HBO really didn't want to do. HBO's like, we're not going to take your junk. We want Floyd. We'll let somebody be on the undercard, but we're not going to showcase and highlight your garbage. So Al thought that was a bit strong because you did it for everybody else. Like, what y'all had even asked out Bob Arum? So with all of these things being said and put into place, the PBC was born. The premier boxing channel opened up with a $500 million fund just to start, and they're overpaying people for fights. It's supposed to be the best fighters fighting the best. Nobody is getting in each other's way. This was it. You're just gonna see the best fighters fight the best. But Al Haymon had a strategy. The lie was that we're not gonna be doing it like the other promoters, building these showcase fights. We're gonna have the best fighters fighting the best. But his system was take a C-rated fighter, put him in with another C-rated fighter of ours, and then after those two C-rated fighters build their names up, we put those two C-rated fighters, but it doesn't matter as long as we have them all under one umbrella, PBC. Now, they argued when Top Rank did this and was blocking Floyd out. Now, PBC is blocking out other fighters. They just erased Top Rank's name, put their name, and started doing their own thing. Showtime has a business proposition because they're aligned with Fox. So they gave them access to go to Fox and do what they needed to do. They had Showtime and Fox. They put Steven Espinoza as the president. Espinoza is friends with Al Haymon. So they put him as the sports agent and to president of sports at Showtime, and there you have it. Al Haymon is running boxing. The UFC was up for sale. He's part of the William Morris agency. All of the clients are now individual owners of the UFC. From LL Cool J, all these people who had stocks who were clients of William Morris agency, Mark Wahlberg, all these guys bought stock into UFC, including Al Haymon. So he really runs UFC and boxing. And no one knows it because he stays quiet. Now, how is this hurting boxing? You're not seeing the best fighting the best, and you're seeing a bunch of fighters who really don't know how to fight. Because Al realized that a lot of the brothers can get paid. But a lot of brothers go to the NFL and they do all these things instead of trying to get one of these boxer kids who nobody knows. Let's grab some of these big athletic guys who had a shot at football and basketball, but it didn't work out because they blew their knee a couple times. They might have some fight in them. Send them to the Al Haymon Boxing Academy, where they put them in the gym, try to turn them into fighters, and send them out in the world. This is how people are starting to knock out tomato cans. And y'all fall for it because we just wanted to see some brothers on the screen. So you got brothers on the screen and you just start going for it like, yo, oh, we got a brother on the screen. All right. Get him, brother. And this is why you believe Deontay Wilder was one of the greatest champions of all time. Wilder just had that X factor. He can knock you into next week. And as long as you got that eraser, you can always sell tickets. But he had to be matched up well. There's a lot of fights where he was losing a lot of the rounds. And he just landed the knockout blow. Many times. Al Haymon has, I don't think he did anything with Floyd that wasn't required. The Floyd ain't been the problem. Since Floyd ain't been there, his problems with messing up the Errol Spence fight, I'll call it shiesty negotiations. I mean, he's screwing up the sport because we're not seeing the best fight the best. We're seeing PBC fight PBC, which means that Gervonta Davis, and this is why he's not ranked in the top 10 pound for pound. Because who's he beating to be ranked in top 10 pound for pound? It's a simple question, simple answer. He's beat nada. No one. So if you haven't beaten anyone to be even ranked as the top, why are we here? Like, what are we talking about now? Because if that don't work, then none of it works. Floyd, I mean, Al's a shrewd negotiator, but he's a businessman. He doesn't care about what the fans want. He cares about the business and where does it make money on the back end. What is the greatest way to sell this? That's Al's projection. So you can make a fight with Al Haymon. It's just going to be a process. He's going to make it really hard because he's going to negotiate and you're not going to like it if you're a promoter. And most promoters are used to having, this is my way, take it or leave it. You know, this is what it is. And now they're not in that driver's seat no more. Al Haymon got all the fighters. He's got all the champions. He's trying to corner the market on the division. It has a drowning effect. on most of the people in boxing. Al Heyman's name holds weight. I'll never forget one of these reporters, a white guy, because I'm in the boxing world, in case you guys don't know, sports writer, whole nine. So, one of these guys wanted to find out a story on Al Haymon and write this story up about dear old Al. And then, out of nowhere, I mean nowhere, the story goes left. And not only does it go left, it goes so far out of its element that it doesn't even make sense anymore. They take the smallest little thing and make a molehill out of it. They made something very small very active when it didn't need to be. And it was pathetic. It was a pathetic play, but they pulled it. They said to themselves, this is the best way to go. But now, this is why we got mediocre fighters fighting mediocre fighters. Al Haymon has taken these fighters and made them into something that they're not. All the Hispanic fighters he then found, they're not that good. Some of them were with Golden Boy and they left and wanted to go with Al Haymon. Golden Boy had only dealt with Hispanic fighters. They had nobody black working for them. So when they was coming to work with Al Haymon, it was because they didn't want to be bigoted. Al was running the company and was making them all their money. They weren't making no money into Al. Not any real money. So showed them how to make money and be successful. Bending the brown with the black. But then Oscars couldn't handle the success of all this money coming in. Oscar just started getting crazy. Going out, getting wild, drinking. He was totally insane. Dressing up as a woman, that ruined it. Now, the crop of fighters it's all crap. That's why you got reality shows like these celebrity fights or whatever you want to call them. These fights are bigger than anything they putting together. Seriously. All of these fights they got, they're bigger than anything they got. And the reason why is because of what? This is why Jake Paul can come in and do what he's doing. The sport of boxing is gone. It is done. You got about 4 to 5 fighters that make money. Canelo is the breadwinner of the entire sport. After him, because Floyd's retired, so after him is who? Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury's barely in the sport, but he's making all the money. After him, who you got? Anthony Joshua. He's making all the money. Then, after him, who do you got? Deontay Wilder. Wilder's making the money. Right? That's 4 guys. Who's the 5th guy? It damn sure ain't Errol Spence or Terrence Crawford. Lomachenko. So you got 5 guys who are making the lion's share of the money, and the rest of the guys, and most of them are losing. Joshua done lost 2 fights in a row. He done damn near lost 3 of his last 4 fights. Wilder done lost 2 in a row. Really should have been 3. Well, he's got 3 losses now as he's dealing with this situation. So Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford are not even the top money makers in the sport. Why is that? Jake Paul could come in and make millions and do a pay-per-view. But it's only so long that people are going to be able to do that because there's so many pay-per-views going by. But where Al Haymon is ruining boxing at is when he made a fatal flaw. Is when during the pandemic, to keep boxing alive, they had to put fights on pay-per-view. They had no choice. So I understood it because you had no choice. Got to put the fights on pay-per-view. People couldn't come to the venue, and boxing is a sport that makes its money from attendance. So that crippled the sport. Then when they start having limited people come through, you're taking fights that should be on regular HBO or Showtime. Showtime is not even spending the money. They're putting those fights, showcase fights, on pay-per-view. So that's what they doing. They putting all that shit on pay-per-view. What up? They putting all that on pay-per-view so that you can spend your money to see it. And that's paying for the fighters. They figure everybody spent about $30, $40 for a fight. Shell, they was charging $60 for Tank Davis. So if you know they spending that money for Tank and putting that out there, what is everybody else gonna do? They gonna sit there and spend their money. They gonna get involved too. So now that everybody's spending the money, this is why people can, like Jake Paul, can come in and make his money. But now that's drying up. That's why those fights weren't taking place, because they weren't selling tickets. They trying to say, oh, he couldn't make the weight, so we had to pull the fight. Nonsense. They weren't selling the tickets like that. People weren't going to come there to see no showcase fight. They want to see a real fight. If they're going to spend their money, they're going to want the real thing. So that pay-per-view every fight, for all these fights that should be regular fights on HBO, that's where Al Haymon has started costing people the money. Hey, bro. See you in a minute. I'm all right.